Wednesday night notification crew. Let me know you're in the house. Hit me with a message real quick. Just say, hey, we got a really, really good stream tonight. I am so stoked to have Skitchy from the PRS, from PRS Guitars. He's the PTC. He can tell you everything he does. He wears a number of hats, and that's one of the reasons why I'm very excited to have him on. Let me turn my music down and get a little. I'm going to let the music play for a second and just make sure I got a couple people here in the chat. If you're here, say hey, say hi, Skitchy, say hi to Skitchy, and I'll let me bring him on here. Looks like there's at least a couple of you saying hi. So without any further ado, hey, look, there's Skitchy. How are you, buddy? What's happening, man?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Dave?
I'm good. Oh, wait, what? Wrong button. There we go.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get the lag, the catching up on the lag. Yep. All right. It looks like we got a couple of people here. Hi there, Chips. Good to see you, man. And yep, Anthony says we can hear you. All right. Awesome. Great.
Awesome.
So James, or Skitchy, as you are so well known on the intranets, we see you on the YouTube channel for PRS. You have your tech stuff, you have your tech videos, all your things to offer assistance. I know you do a whole bunch of stuff. Anthony says, yeah, he's got the arch top. Now, whose arch top? Whose arch top is that?
This is my 2-year guitar.
That's yours? Yeah. Okay, that is your two. I wasn't sure if that was Stacy's or if that was yours.
No, this is my very first actual, like, legit full on core PRS. My 2-year guitar.
Nice. Okay, gotcha. Nice. And there's Paul's signature there. And then Juliet says hi. She sent us an emoji that says wash hands. Well, I don't know if it'll show up. The emoji stuff here is always funny. But okay, so yeah, you got the arch top. That's a beauty. That's a thick beast there too, isn't it?
Yeah. 4 1/4 inches at the edge. Yeah, it's a great full piezo system.
What's up, Boomer? Boomer says it looks thick. That's a good looking guitar for sure. I love that top. That's beautiful top there.
Yeah, this one here has seen its
God.
As we'll get to, back when I was in all my dumb punk and industrial bands, this was like my main guitar, and this thing has seen some terrible clubs, some terrible conditions.
Well, let's backstep then. Good segue. So how did you go from I assume you started playing guitar, and much like so many of us, you kind of stepped into the world of wearing at least a couple hats while also enjoying music and playing guitar and doing anything you possibly could. So how did that start for you?
I started playing guitar, early teens, like we all do. My grandma bought a '64 Fender Mustang at a yard sale for $5 and gave it to me. That's what I learned on. So that was fun to figure out later what that was.
Nice, yeah. When
at the time, it was a cheap guitar I learned on.
Right. Now that would be very valuable particular guitar. Do you still have that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, very cool. Very nice.
I do.
Kudos to you for keeping it. Yeah.
It's in the middle of being refinished right now. It was like whoever had it before like stripped it down and min waxed it. So it's in the middle of being refinished, but I've still got it, original case, and it came with like a bunch of Yes books. So I started out with a Fender Mustang and some Yes tab.
And so what year was this? If you don't mind me asking. You can say a roundabout era.
I mean, I was born in 81, so it was probably 95, 94, 95-ish.
Yep. So about the same time the bug hit me, around 14-ish.
Yeah, about that. Did the whole learn Metallica's thing, fell in love with punk, was in a bunch of like punk bands, industrial bands, the whole 9 Inch Nails, that whole thing. While playing out and doing all that stuff, hit 18, 19, started playing out, doing all that. Kind of fell in love with I'd show up early and watch, even at the little clubs, watch like stage get set, just run sound, all that kind of stuff, sound checks, and really kind of fell in love with that side of the industry.
Yep.
Just the thought of showing up to an empty platform and you build this immaculate, like you build this incredible show. You know, you try just all people for 2 hours, and then you take it down and it's gone, and that's it. It's magic for 2 hours,
Yep.
and then the next night it's a new magic. Kind of fell in love with that. So
Both
yeah,
both the previous guests have mentioned that aspect, that move it in, move it out, and the enamorment behind it. So it's funny you speak of that, because it's an incredible feeling to do all the work that it takes just to get it set up, but then to also take it down and just be a part of it it's definitely something to take pride in.
it's so cool, and like even still, like I'll watch National X, something like Trans-Siberian or Metallica right now, where it's like a 2 or 3D build.
Yeah.
I just want to be there and watch. Like that's what, like, I'd love to just go and see that, even as much as the show, just to see just to see the speaker system. Their system is incredible.
Yeah.
But just to see the build, and the fact that these concerts are really, like, you connect with people connect with concerts, and there's so many people working at that outside of the band. You've got 4 or 5 people in the band. You've got 30 or 40 people making it happen. Even in a small club, you've got 10, 15 people between security, bookers, someone getting the people in there, and then just the building of the stage, the making the spectacle for a moment and then moving out. I love that.
Yep.
Um,
So you were watching. So you're in your process of being in the bands. You end up showing up early. You start doing everything. How does that move you beyond just guitar? Where does that kind of take you next in your journey then, from music and using the guitar as like a tool to having several tools within your belt already at a certain age?
Honestly, first place it took me was recording.
Uh-huh.
Learning how to produce, how to record, and at that point, it's I was past like a 4-track, but I think I started out in Cakewalk 3.
Okay.
So Sonar 3.0 or 3.1, maybe even Cakewalk. So it's like, it's pretty rudimentary compared to what I have now.
Right. But it got the job done. Yep.
Got the job done. And doing that, and also modifying some of my own guitars, because, like I said, I started with that Mustang. My first real guitar was an Epiphone Explorer, which I also still have. It's a Micro Explorer that my dad bought for me, which was incredible. It was not long after I started really wanting to play. And I don't play it much, but it's down here in the studio. It's just part of. I'm not going to get rid of it ever. You know what I mean? It's the first guitar.
Yeah.
First real guitar. But at the same time, it was like a $300 Epiphone. So once I started getting into recording and knowing what things could sound like, I was like, well, I can make this sound better. Let's see what I can do with this. Let's mod this up. So, so I started out just swapping pickups, adding some switches, adding some coil tabs, adding some, whatever weird mods I had in my head at that point in time. And that eventually led to me wanting to pursue this after I graduated from high school. So I found a luthier school. I did go to like an actual luthier school. It's called John Marshall's Luthiers International. It's in Georgia. So I moved down to Snellville, Athens, Georgia for a couple of months.
Okay.
And I was
going to ask how long you were there for.
I think I did the 6-month course.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
And that was 6 days a week, 8 to 10, maybe 12 hours a day in the shop. And it was 3 to 5 people per course. I started out with 5, and then after 3 months, it dropped down to 3 of us.
Okay. Wow.
And it was just straight up repair, and it's kind of weird because they did repairs, and he had bought like this wrecked train car of these like blueberry. They were like this $49 acoustics. And that's what we learned to do like setups on, and that's how we learned, because you could open it up and see what a truss rod was,
right?
See how things worked.
The scariest part of the guitar.
Scary. This right here is terrifying to most people.
Yep,
It's really not scary, but yeah, you could really like get into it and learn. And we also like worked on a lot of electrics. We built guitars while we were down there. Actually, my very first guitar I built was a oversized 7-string Explorer with a Flying V headstock on it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was huge. I ended up rhino lining it, which was a terrible idea, but looked cool.
10, 11, 12 pounds later.
Oh yeah, it was obscenely heavy.
That's awesome.
I wish I still had that one. I lost that one a couple of years back.
Yeah.
But so after I got out of school, I went to, I don't know if anyone remembers Mars Music.
Yeah.
Music and Recording Superstore.
Right. Yep. Mars Music. There was I'm not too far from where one of your locations was.
You're right by Catonsville, right?
Yeah, so I'm over in the Catonsville area there. And so you did Luthier school, and then you got over to Mars, you got into a guitar store, but not as a salesperson.
No, I started at the guitar store as a repair person. So I was in like they had a little tiny closet next to the used room, and that's just where I lived. I did all the repairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met you there. So weird story, that would have been 299, 2000-ish.
Yeah.
Probably 2000. And the very first PRS I got to work on was yours.
That is really just mind blowing to me that right? That's the case,
Yeah, I remember we had 2 of them come in. We had yours, and I had a dude named Davey from at the time Gold Mine Squad, and he had covered the top of his in glue and silver glitter. So
I remember that band. I remember the flash and the music, and I remember he still does his thing. It's that's really
he's like out on the West Coast. It's very orgy-esque now, so it's pretty cool.
Right. Very cool.
But,
so there you go.
Yeah.
You're in a music store. You're actually working on guitars, not just not just selling product. You're still following this love that you had. I can fix it. I can make it better. I can do this. I can dive in. There's a whole nother side to this than just the notes and music and playing the most current song. There's a whole nother world here, and you're seeing it.
A whole nother world.
Yeah.
And by that point, working in retail, you realize there's a whole lot of dudes out there better than you are.
Oh yeah, yeah.
At least I realized that.
Yeah. Just watching YouTube one time.
Yeah. I roll out of my room sometimes and it'd be a dude. I'm like, that sounds like 4 dudes playing guitar, but that's just one dude sitting in the corner.
Right. And meanwhile, he's like a cook down the road, and he's like, hey, I just play, I just mess around. And you're just like, oh, I give up.
Right. And at that point, I was making money on this other side, on the repair side, and I was enjoying it. So I was, I didn't pursue. I was still playing out all the time, but I wasn't like, even at 20, 21, 22, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna be a rock star. I'm happy playing music. I'm happy writing music. I'm happy earning my money in the same industry. So it was kind of eye-opening. At the same time, it was relieving. I didn't have to. How do I say this?
You found you could rely on music without relying on the music. Music could be there the way it kind of was for you in certain ways and bring you and move you through whatever your next step of the journey was going to be. And with this gift of music that you had found, you could now find other gifts that you could explore. And so how long were you were with Mars until it shut
Uh,
down?
not I left just a few months before they shut down.
Okay. Guitar
Um,
Center came into town on this side of town, and it was just like, man, forget it.
yeah, I actually worked over at that Towson store not long after GC opened up, and you could kind of tell it was writing on the wall type of deal.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have a second big option like that, but
Absolutely agree. But in a little town, and I mean, they were literally on the same street, and it was almost like it was done on purpose.
it was like one stoplight down from each other. It
Yeah.
was crazy.
I'm really happy that there are a lot of local stores still in our area.
Yes.
The Baltimore, Annapolis, DC area, the music scene, the Northern Virginia, the music scene has always kind of been a thing. Like there's always been ads on the radio for local bands, even if the band doesn't get played, you hear local band names,
Yes.
And so for me, coming from a couple of bands that were PRS endorsed, and then coming out of the whole world, but entering the whole different world for me is this whole journey for me too. Entering, like you said, I hit a spot where I was like, I love the sound setup, I love all of this. So exploring it and finding the world, something that kind of fits you without having to rely on the music or the writing process, and just being a part of this still helped you feel creative. So you did the Mars thing. What was next in your journey after that? You had done luthier
Um,
school. You
I'd done
do
Lucia School. I did Mars. And actually at that point I had left Mars. Um, I just like I kind of seen it writing on the wall. I left. I kind of moved back out of repairs at that point, and I was working with my parents on a food truck, and I was building guitars in their shed
on your own. You're
from
making
scratch.
your own little guitar thing going on.
Yeah, I built a handful of guitars at that point, and
People ever reach out and say, "Hey, I have one of your what did you said
um,
Z3?"
yeah, Z3 guitars. I've found one of them again,
Cool.
and that dude's he's stoked with it.
Yeah.
He loves it. So
Fun.
I just basically told him I had dibs on it. Um,
Don't
I
ever
built
get
it.
rid of it. Yep.
I built it. I want it back if you get rid of it.
Very
Um,
cool. That's awesome. So,
But
so you're making guitars on your own,
yep.
and
And so I was making guitars on my own. And I dealt with PRS a bit when I was at Mars because PRS has come in. I had to go down and get parts, and I was just like, let's see, because I'm gonna tell you right now, making guitars on your own is fun, but there is not much money in it.
right.
So I wanted to get back to living through that industry and making my living at it. So I went down to PRS, I applied, and a couple of months later, I got a phone call, said come in. So I came down, did my trial days, and I started sanding guitars. Literally, just like they get sprayed, I'd sand the top coat flat, send in the buff. Did that for a couple of months, and then there was a opening in buffing, so I went there, and that was really really cool because you were taking something that wasn't shiny and you were making it shiny and super pretty,
Right.
sending it down the line. Went out to a turnaround bench where I'd take the buffer stuff and I'd check over, make sure there are no scratches, basically a QC position.
That dipped in glass look you guys get, that just
Exactly. That just shine.
Yeah.
Spent probably about 6 years in buffing and turnaround.
Okay.
Just bouncing back and forth. And turnaround is just, like I said, QCing what the buffers are doing. So when it went to final assembly, everything was shiny, all the sanding scratches were out, that kind of stuff.
Up to spec.
Then I went over to final assembly for about a year.
Okay.
And then they decided to start that PTC job up. So I applied for that.
Explain what PTC does, because that's still part of your job title at this point, right?
That's the majority of my job is still PTC, and that is the PRS Tech Center, Paul's Tech Center.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a repair center. It's a customer forward repair side of PRS.
Okay.
Which very few large guitar companies have.
Yeah.
So say, your kids, your cat, your dog, whatever, run in, knock your guitar over, knock your headstock off. There's only one authorized repair center for PRS, and it's the PTC, and you literally send it back into the factory, and the same people who at one point built your guitar. I definitely have gotten a couple of guitars back when I opened it up. I'm like, oh, there's my name. Awesome.
I remember that one. Yep. I see.
Yeah. Yeah. We repair it back up to PRS specs. So, we'll get some people I've got one in right now that's just had the finish just beaten up, and it's a late 90s, early 2000s, and they want it to look new again. So we're going to just, strip it down, restain it original colors because we have all the formulations, and basically rebuild it like new. So that's what a lot of my job right now is, repairs, which, just like I was saying with the sanding stuff down and buffing it back out, it's really rewarding to get a beat up guitar and just all of a sudden it comes out, it looks brand new. The owner's going to open that case and be like, well, damn, that looks like I bought it 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm. We got a comment from Anthony. He said he sent his guitar to PTC for a piezo replacement and a refin. So
yeah,
speaking of a customer,
Anthony, I've talked to many times. He's actually got an incredible guitar collection. Yeah, it's good, and he's a damn good photographer too. So they look extra good in the photos.
Yep. Okay. Cool. He's got the guitar pouring up on the PRS group.
Very much so.
Very cool.
Very much so. But that's kind of what we do, and then
okay.
I also do some stuff in PTC where, outside of the repair stuff, if you've got a guitar and you're like, man, I love this guitar, but you want different pickups, different electronics, or I've even had some people be like, got this hardtail, but I'm super into trems or super into Floyds right now. Well, we can see about, you can't always because neck angles are weird on things, but like trems we can turn into Floyds, and I've added a lot of middle pickups. Something like that hits where someone's got like middle pickups, like the special came out. That's 2 humbuckers in that narrow field. Yeah. And we got a lot of people like, man, I love this CE. Can I get a narrow field? And we can do that kind of thing.
Oh, those are amazing. I remember that's one of Wynn's designs, right? The narrow field, or he was part of that whole Wynn Krozak. I remember him mentioning him to me and giving me an NF3 to check out at one point, and it was like, whoa,
right?
That's a killer pickup. Holy Moses, and the NF3 like had 3 of them,
Yeah, they're like a beefy P90-esque type of you got that P90 squawk at it, but you have the humbucker power. It's awesome
reactive, volume reactive into the Soldano, especially. Oh, it's just like, wow, this is a great sound to have, So I'm really glad you guys have stuck with those NF3s and are putting them into things like that. That's really
we just really reintroduced them real hard this year. Like we have the studio back, which is 2 NF3s and a humbucker in the bridge.
Yeah, that's cool looking. And then there's now the Fiore. Speaking of new models that have the HSS kind of a look. If you don't mind me, I want to get back to you for a second. But since we're talking about guitars, whoa. Can I ask you about that? That Fiore is like just a sight to behold. I mean, it's really like such an advancement. It's like, I guess, was it Charvel that kind of was the Fender? We can do Fender, but we can do it like this. So, your Silver Skyline, they're gorgeous. The new colors are amazing. I was not expecting the Fiore. I was not expecting Mark to come out and be like, hey, I got this, and it's named after this. And the story is beautiful behind it. But can you tell me anything about that guitar in particular as a new guitar? You don't have to tell me anything deeper than what
I
you
mean,
what you can about it, because it is something. I know it's still hasn't really been released yet. So
yeah, I mean, it's out and about. Like you saw the video. It was at the event the other day.
yeah, oh,
It's a really cool guitar. It's just I mean the HSS is it's a great layout. It's got some cool switching on it where it's got
yeah,
two push pulls and it doesn't split, but it goes to series parallel for the bridge
right.
humbucker. So you still have a lot of quack out of that when you pull that, and then you can get the outside pickups as well. It's really like a Swiss Army knife. It's
So is it doing series or parallel within the one humbucker? So the humbucker then it swaps
yep,
the it swaps the coil basically in that. Okay, gotcha. Okay, I
yeah,
had that was one of my questions about the switching. Didn't quite
yeah.
get.
It's the bridge humbucker. The bridge goes from a humbucker to basically parallel as two single coils.
That's really cool.
Um, but it's a great. It's going to be real fun when people get their hands on those because
Yeah.
they're really cool guitars.
Yeah, I love the idea of them now the pickups are mounted to the body on that. Is that
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
No, there's
They're
no pick guard on it, right?
no
So
pick
that's
guard, no
like that
pickup
kind of
rails.
next step. Some people are like, "Oh yeah,"
Right?
like that's a deep. To me, that's just a different. I mean, Eddie, if Eddie did it, if Eddie liked it, there's a reason, and there's I would just love to pick your mind about that alone, because he had. I'm sure Mark had some input on this guitar. I feel like that's one of the things about getting a PRS signature guitar is that it doesn't seem like there's just a format. Like this is this model with this color. No, you guys do a model for the dude. Like, and even if
I
it's
mean,
like if they say I like this model and I would just like that, but laid out like that. Sure, if that's the way it works, it seems to have worked out. And so his that's why I was just first off shocked, because it was like he just you guys blew it out of the park visually for me with that one. And it just I'm really stoked for you guys to have that partnership with him too, because Snarky Puppy and his side bands.
talk about guys who I would walk out of my room at Mars and be like, "Yep, I'm hanging it up."
Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of musicianship that when I watch Snarky Puppy, I'm like mind blown. Okay, all of those people are amazingly better than I would ever hope to be. And that's where you get to saying, okay, so what can I do? Because I love this music. I love being part of all of this. And how can I do that? So, okay, so let's get back.
Yeah,
Let me not be a fanboy too much. And let's get back to how you then went from you had sent an application to PRS. You're there.
yep.
You move through the line, which is a common process. If somebody's going to start there, you start on the line,
You
and
start on the line.
you work
When
your
I
way through
started, you
that.
couldn't even get hired into final assembly.
Right.
Final assembly was for you
You'd
had to
been
work elsewhere in the factory and kind of
there. Right. Prove you
graduate
there.
up into it.
The rules of his all of his rules of tone, all of the rules of
Yep.
tone. They have to be inherent for you at that point in order to have gotten into that. And
Yes. So yeah, I moved into final assembly. Then I moved into the PTC, and it was a brand new thing at that point.
Mhm.
Like there were four of us, and it was the first four people who had ever been part of the PTC. So there was a lot of just figuring out. Anytime you start a new department, it's
A little
it's
trial and error.
a little trial and error, a little just what exactly are we, because at first we were just doing like warranty repairs, and we started doing some customer stuff, and now it's bloomed into this whole department.
Yeah, hold the department
Um,
for you guys. It's definitely a thing. I've seen it in the magazines. But, everybody talks about. Yeah, you got a PRS and you want this. I remember the Premier Guitar magazine where they had the refin issue, and it was this looked like this '90s PRS, and now it looks like this nice modern PRS, but it's
yes,
the same one. And I was like, wow, how cool is that to have it officially done by by the guys, by you guys, and to have to offer that service.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing. Like I said, it's not something that and coming from a repair guy background myself, when I was at Mars, when I was at Mars Music, I was a Fender certified tech, Takamine, Rickenbach, you name Washburns, all those. Some of those certifications, like they would like, this is legit. Like they'll come out and check your tools, show you a couple of show you some normal repairs.
Yeah,
You
the
got a guy
Fender
you
one
can call up.
is a serious. You can go to Fender and they
Yeah.
give you that. Yeah.
At that point, they came to me,
Well,
which
yeah,
was
very
real
cool.
cool. Of course,
Convenient.
I was with Mars, so it was actually like a big store. I'm sure if I don't know if I was a little guy, they'd come out for that, but I don't know. I didn't have to deal with that.
Right. Yeah.
But you had uh, like we were trained for it. We had people we could talk to, but some of them was still like, you get talked through, and luckily, at least at Mars, all the repair guys had dealt with enough stuff um, to know how to repair stuff. I will tell you, the first time I had to replace a truss rod on a Rickenbacker, a guy was like, "Just squeeze it and pull." I was like, "Say what?" I'm on the phone like, "You do what now?" It's like, "Just squeeze and pull." I squeezed and pulled, and the truss rod came out. I was like, "Well,
Wow. Like that's
that's
that.
a new
Huh?
one. Put down the board."
That's cool.
uh, but being able to send it back to the actual shop is huge.
Right.
Um, just because PRS has so many proprietary parts and proprietary finishes,
Yeah.
and um, you're really not going to find people who know them and know how to work on them better than the people at the shop.
Right. It's
Um,
one thing if it's a Gibson and it's a local shop, or if it's a Fender, especially a Fender, something like that, where it's like you do this, 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 and it's out of here. You
yeah,
know, the PRS stuff. A lot of people think it's that easy because there's 6 screws on the bridge and because there's humbuckers, or but it's not. And the wing tuners, it's you don't just dig into that unless you really know what you're doing. So it's a
yeah,
brilliant. I thought it was a brilliant move on Paul's part to offer that, because it gets it out of the hands. It gets some of these really valuable guitars out of the hands of some people that are going to butcher them if they don't do just a couple of things wrong. It's like, well, now I have to send it to somebody that knows what they're doing.
yeah.
So,
And there are a few shops around who really know their stuff about PRSs.
oh yeah, yeah,
But for the average, if you don't necessarily have a tech, you don't have a tech that you use often or a tech close by,
right.
it's a great
Well, at that time
it's a great
too,
option for it.
yeah, because at that time you had Fenders and the stuff that had been around for so long, and most people knew what they were doing. The PRSs were still new; there were still the quirks. So in the mid to 2000s, there were only so many people out there that had their hands on it. So that
Yeah,
just such kudos to you guys for doing that. And then so from PTC, you also got into not just doing this, for customers, but now you another part of your title is artist relations, and then
artist relations tech.
you
Yeah,
you also do more stuff like with Paul on a kind of out of the shop level too. So let's kind of explore what some of
yes.
those ventures have been like for you.
Artist relations tech is really, I do the same thing. Here's the really, really, really cool part
Uh-huh.
is what I do for artists is the same thing I do for customers. It's just a different name on the tag. Um,
So
so
that's going to feel good to for anybody that buys a PRS has got to, know that they have that behind them.
yeah, if you send your guitar in for a setup, I may have just got done doing a setup for an artist, and yours is like, it's just, I don't have special tools for it. It's just, that's what I do.
Yep.
I do setups. They all come out of my shop being the best that they can be.
Doesn't matter the name on it. Yep.
No,
So
no.
it's really almost then that has become like a subdivision, but just really an expansion of the PTC for specifically for artists, for them to easily, quickly reach out to you. send them out to them wherever the next stop is on the tour, or do something like that for their particular requests.
I mean, yeah, they deal with their artist reps, Bev, Rich, Win. Those guys are all just amazing. But yeah, they sort of an artist, needs setup, needs whatever, either on a new guitar or something they've had. It comes in, it gets set up, we check it like we check everything else, and it goes out. So that's just, I mean, it's cool, but it's also really cool for, like Anthony, when I set his guitar up, I set it up, you can send whatever, specs you want in, if you want it low, whatever you want. But it's the same setup that I do for everyone.
It's going to be, if you want a low PRS setup, it's going to be this type of a low PRS. If you want the mid, it's going to be that, and it's going to, that's very cool. And being the core of that part, your hands are touching these on their way out the door, and when, like you said, when they come back in, you might recognize it and go, "Oh yeah, okay, this definitely was not like this when I set this out."
Yeah,
why? Why did this happen?
I mean, that's part of it too. Is we call it forensic luthery, which is when we take something that's not quite right and really dig deep in and figure out why it's not right. That's been an interesting part of the whole job. Even more so than just, hey, let's make this one right, is why wasn't it right in the first place?
Does the type of material of wood, have you found these kind of factors? Is there something that you lean to a lot of times to look first? Like when, why is this truss rod not doing the thing? Why is the pickup, why are these pots not as reactive in this guitar? So, well, there's things that you're speaking of. Is there a go-to routine? Or is it really trial? Like, still, you're in a kind of a trial by fire because, you like you said at the beginning, you're feeling all of this out, and each of these guitars really being handmade on the custom, from the core level on, I feel like that there's an inherent possibility that this piece of wood or this, there's always going to be something. And you got to kind of, I guess, like for the audio engineers, there's signal flow. You're going to check this first. You're going to check that first. So beyond just your truss rod and this, has there been a problem with roasted maple? I mean, you guys haven't even messed with roasted maple, really, have you?
We've actually done roasted maple for 2 or 3 years now.
Okay.
I mean, it's cool. The nice thing about working down there is we run through everything way before you get your hands on it as an end user. So we've tried all this stuff quite a bit. Really, what it comes down to most of the time is just making sure that a lot of what I see as far as like the forensic luthery part of it is this person is playing this spot a lot, so it's wearing down a little bit, or this person has really sweaty, like really corrosive sweat. I see that quite a bit where this guitar just sounds dull, and you're like, well, there's a lot of gunk in that bridge.
I've killed pickups. Yeah, I've killed live pickups before.
Yeah.
I'm a sweater. Yeah.
A lot of it comes down to that, and then just really just making sure everything is dialed in, more so than you do a setup where you throw strings on, you're like, oh, that feels good, just really dialing in and making sure that what's going out is not just good but great.
Right.
It's just making sure that you're hitting all your specs, you're hitting all your triple checking everything. A lot of it just comes down to that kind of thing. Just the putting that extra bit of time in and just
that's
making sure it's just as good as it can be.
As it can be, right? And that's why you don't get hired, into final production. you work your way up. You learn all these rules. You learn everything, that Paul has. And so it's got to be great. I mean, I'll go back to being a fanboy now for a second. It's got to be great working and hanging out with Paul sometimes. I mean, you,
Yeah.
and so you get to go to his gigs. You go and do work for him. You tech for him.
Yep, I do. I tech for him.
Let's get into that.
So when his band goes out and does shows, I'll go out and tech for him. Just setting everything up, making sure everything stays in tune the whole night. Just kind of being there if anything needs to be done. I've started doing a little bit of helping with some sound stuff live. I'm working in his studio, doing some mixing with him and all that.
That's really cool.
So it's really fun.
Moving that circle around as well. Just kind of start in one aspect of something else within this world, and then broaden it. And that's the eternal learning of the music world. There's always something.
Yes.
So that's why I'm saying, like, being around him, it's got to be like a learning thing every day. Like, it's just given, right?
Yes, that is a good way to put it. We are always learning something. There's a whole lot of why. Why does this do this? Why does this do that? And a lot of trying stuff. Like, a lot of this is just trying stuff. And actually, that's one of the things that I do think that people need to think about. Because I was telling you earlier, I was on the internet when I got home, which is a terrible place to be. And I definitely, you see people like, oh, well, I just wired right-handed pots left-handed. That's the same as a left-handed pot, right? I'm like, no, it's not. Same thing with, there's a lot of old wives' tales and myths about what affects what and what doesn't affect what.
Right.
And what I tell people, especially if they want to get into repairs, I also see a lot of people, how do I solder? What do I need to solder? Like, there's a lot of YouTube videos out there that can help with that stuff. But I think the most important thing is to do it. I went to school for this, and I always say the school was a great stepping stone.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned a lot more doing it.
Yep.
And locally, we have an incredible resource in, like, Atomic Music. You can roll down there, pick a guitar for $60 it's $60 if you really want to learn to fix guitars and do this. You'll make that $60 back as soon as you figure out what you're doing, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
But go down there, pick one of those just cheapy ones up off the front wall, and go to town on it. Just
learn how to do it. Yep.
Just learn how to do it. And you know what? Screw a handful of pickups up. Screw a handful of pots up.
Yep.
You can buy them. There's plenty of resources to buy them relatively cheap. $1 or $2 a piece.
That you got to start with the cheap stuff. I mean, I've broken enough good stuff to know, man, oops.
Yeah.
That it's like, okay, you got to start on a lower level. So it's really good advice. Get a beater. Get a beater. Even if you're just working with an SE or an S2 at this point, and that's your baby,
Yep.
Maybe you don't want to do anything to that. I mean, I when I first was messing with the EG, it was like, ooh, I don't know. But then it became fun. It was like, oh yeah, let's do something with this thing. And the EG has that kind of whole concept. We can do whatever we want to it. So yeah, taking it, that was like so much nicer to mess with than the custom that I had. So that was a great way to do it. And so soldering.
Back to this guy. If you buy a cheap guitar, turn it 2 or 3 times, and to check what you're doing with the truss rod, you hold the first fret. Where am I at? First fret.
Let me solo you for a second so that we can do a little bit of this here. There you go.
First fret, last fret, and then you tap it right here, and let's see if you see. It's just a hair of bounce to that.
Yep.
That's right where you want it. But if you take a truss rod me see if I have one with truss rod cover off already. I do. Give me 1 second.
Oh yeah, of course. I'll come back in and go, hi, we're talking with Skitchy over at PRS PTC Relations.
This is Stacy, so I'm going.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so there's. I know I've seen pictures of it before, and
so you can see you've got just a hair bounce there.
Just a little wiggle.
It's not scary.
Yep. And so you're going. I can't quite tell. You just went counterclockwise.
I went, counterclockwise.
Yep. Which you can be loosening the truss rod.
Yeah. So now the strings are exerting more pressure than the truss rod is.
Yep.
First fret, last fret. You can see there's a whole lot more bounce in that string now.
Yep. So just that small, just a couple of moves there.
Yep. Just a couple of moves.
Makes the guitar almost unplayable and almost unintonatable, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And then you can, like, as you're working on it, you can kind of, I always check as I'm going.
Find that spot.
Now, just that little bit, you find that right spot, and it fell in tune. It literally didn't even untune itself.
Yeah. Hey, Logan, what's happening, man? Yeah, we love the tech talk here. Skitchy's going through some quick setup stuff. Okay, so that's it. There's nothing to fear.
There's nothing to fear about it.
Yep. And so Anthony's saying, do you do this at tension? Yeah, as he just said, you did that in tune, and it came right back in tune to that point, and you're under complete tension on your strings there.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
That's an essential thing for new guitarists to understand is the truss rod is acting against the strings within the wood. And until you feel, when I turn it counterclockwise like that, that's going to do this to the strings. When I do the opposite, it does the opposite. Until you really learn one of those things and how it does it, you won't quite get that fear won't leave you then. Yeah. And then Anthony, with such a beautiful, wonderful guitar collection, is still something that clearly he's like, yeah, okay, I'm not sure. Okay, go ahead.
This is one of the guitars I play often. So it's set up. I'm definitely one of those mechanics that I'll work on cars all day long, and I come home and I've got a yard full of broken cars and 2 that I drive.
Yeah.
I'm that guy a little bit. But yeah, we're tuned up.
Yep.
You can.
Yep.
You kind of hear it even there.
It's like a tremolo bar, basically, for all the strings.
I mean, really, it kind of is, because it is. It's bending the neck.
Yep.
It's kind of the same thing. You always see those guys back in the day go.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's that move. When I first learned that move, I was like, "Oh wow, that's a great little trick." You know? And then that was the idea. That was exactly how I learned how a truss rod works. Was you're just pushing on the rod in there. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then that fear goes away. That's when I started taking the Ibanez apart. You know, at that point, it was like I had a couple of guitars. You know. And it was like, as that fear escapes you, you start to learn to not have other fears.
Yeah.
You know? And so these fears of taking the guitars apart, and I mean, hey, I would have a fear of applying at PRS, you know, and you were at a point in your life where you're like, let's just see what's going on down there and see what happens. And the patience paid off. A couple months later, you hear from them, and now you're at the point where, you know, Paul's playing at a gig and his guitar's out of tune, and
I better not be out of tune.
Yeah, well, probably not. But he needs to. Okay, so let's say you need to swap Paul's guitar because he wants to now play this other exquisite, beautiful guitar he has. You can, you know, barring you're not actually at the mixing console at that point, you're the guy kind of doing that, and that's a really cool, as a Marylander. You know, fellow Marylander to a fellow Marylander here. That's a great journey. I remember the guitar magazines in the 80s when the PRS ads first started coming out. and it was just like that glassy look, that beautiful combination of all of the best features of the most wonderful guitars that were already out there, and just making it this like a reachable goal for somebody, like, yeah, sure, there's some that I will never be able to afford, but to go, you
Same.
know what, with some work, I can save up enough money to put aside and get a good, at that point, they weren't called core models, but you could put aside, enough money to get a core model and get, this quality of a guitar. And so having the Maryland pride behind it and being somebody that came from Maryland, how does that feel for you to be able to say, man, this guy, this Paul guy, huh?
Man, what I saw something the other day, Maryland just want new stuff just so we can put our flag on it. It's kind of legit. There's a weird pride that comes with growing up here. It's really cool to know that an hour and 15 minutes from where I grew up, this world class, and they played everywhere. They're all over the place. But this world class guitar came out of little old Maryland. It's not a huge state. It's not a big state. But there's cool stuff that happens here, and it's really, really neat to be a part of this. After I left Mars, I was kind of like, I was working in a food truck. I was looking at, places, and you got Florida, you got California, and this, like I said, this one was here. I was like, let's try this before I find someplace else to go.
Right. You could still call home if this works out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was driving an hour and a half each way when I started there because I was living at my parents' house in Street. I don't know if Street north of Bel Air.
Okay. Wow. Yes.
Yeah. I grew up in Rock State Park.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep.
So I was driving from there down to PRS and then back up. It was a hike, but the work itself was rewarding. I was building guitars, and it was fun. It was exciting. It's a big weird family down there. It's a big weird. I mean, to the point that Stacy, my wife, she did inlay for 7.5 years down there.
Right. Okay. Is she's not working there anymore?
No. She left when our daughter was born.
Okay, when your first child was born.
Yeah. She went back to work, but she was like, "Man, kids are kind of cool. I'm going to go do this." Plus,
yeah. Right. Oh, that's cool. That's cool that this worked out. That she could go home and you could still.
Yeah, I mean, she's got a very successful Etsy business.
Oh, cool! Awesome.
Yeah, it's called Tiny Little Fun Bits, and she does plugs, like gauged earring jewelry. Okay. Really for fancier stuff. So it's not just like a big gauged earring. There's, she does weddings and all that kind of stuff, like really pretty versions of that.
Okay, cool, gotcha.
So that's
a smart idea.
Yeah, and it's been great. She's been doing that for 8, 9. It's been a long time.
Wow. Okay.
She's doing really well at that. So yeah, she was able to leave and come here, come back home and deal with the kids, which just childcare in general is so expensive.
Yeah, it's great. The kids having the mom time. There's nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing better than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then there's
like I met her down there. Like I met my wife at PRS.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh yeah. She started working there, and I met her there.
Okay, I didn't realize. I thought that there was a relationship before, and then you brought her on board there. Okay, how cool!
No. It's been like I said, it's a big weird family down there. There's cool. There's a handful of couples that have met at PRS.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's like because you guys are in my book. You're number one. PRS is going to always be number one. But when it comes to sales, you guys have proven that you are right up there with the best of them, and some of the best of them some of these people have never touched their guitars.
Yeah.
You know, and they're the best. And so to know that you are getting a guitar designed by a mind like Paul's, who doesn't just look at music, he is looking at ways to cure cancer.
Yeah, that's
I
a
mean,
whole.
there's sides to his mind that we can't understand. No, I mean, and it's a good thing. We need that, and to have that be part of his circle, his circles, his tools must just be. I mean, for us to be able to talk about what we've done, you know, expand, we need somebody like that to be able to show us. Just doing what I do here at Maryland Sound and in the wood shop every day too. It's a learning. When you're around people that want to teach and that
Yes.
enjoy teaching and want to do what they're doing, there's nothing like it in the world. And you find that
Yep.
in music, and you find that with the engineering, and you find that with the guys that really have found the love of music and then the ability to pursue it without having to, like we said at the beginning, make the music be the thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's just. I kind of see that as. I really dig what I do, and I would love everyone to be able to go to work and be like, you know what, that was cool. And
Right.
there's just something that really, really nice about that, and it's just rewarding at the end of the day to go and do something you love doing.
Imagine.
And it definitely makes like bad days aren't nearly as bad. You have bad days. Everyone's got bad days.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, you're like, nah, I still built some cool ass guitars today.
Mm. Yeah.
And
Even the toughest days still feel like a rewarding kind of experience when it's something you care about.
absolutely, absolutely. And it is really, it's been really cool to come full circle, kind of like you said. Where I didn't started out playing bands when I do PRS. My longest band was a band I was in with people at PRS. We did like 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Wrote an insane amount of songs. You know, just did a whole bunch of like all the way up and down the East Coast states. It was great, and I still work with Mike, the drummer. I work a couple of dozen feet from him.
Wow.
It's
That's cool. That's the wild family, weird kind of family vibe that you get as the brotherly, the
exactly
family thing. Yeah.
exactly. And we have like we've got these parties every year called the Blahs, which was named years and years and years and years way before me. Was employees getting together and just, you know, wintertime. Everyone's kind of like, there's not much music going on, so you get together and put bands together. We still do that.
That's
where
cool.
everyone, you just like grab random people, like, hey, let's play a song, and you put a band together out of employees.
Do you guys have a space for that? Do you have a little jam space over there at the factory?
No, we don't have one really at the factory,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of people who live close by.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's some really nice spots there's actually some really nice spots on Kent Island for bands, which kind of blows my mind still, because when I started there wasn't.
Right.
But like you got a brewery right down the street who's got a couple of 100-person capacity. It's really nice.
Wow.
Which, like I said, is kind of mind blowing that there's the music scene is like that on Kent Island.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine part of that is there's a ton of musicians living there now.
Down there now. Yeah. The Annapolis scene in specifically whatever, has always had a certain character to it that is a little more mature than like just the regular old music scene, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and I've seen a lot of different scenes and played and gotten vibes from towns, and Annapolis gives off a vibe And it's funny because, like, as somebody that's a bit of an outsider to Annapolis, but also grew up always going to Annapolis, like, I remember always thinking, like, feeling a little elite whenever I would be in the Annapolis area. The name, just something about it kind of adds to that. And then having the Paul Reed Smith kind of moniker and the factory, all of the vibes kind of bring the musicians together in a certain way, especially as guitarists say. It kind of helps elevate it to a degree that, like, hey, this is a town that now, like, kind of has a focus on it, and
Yeah.
it's never become like Nashville or LA in the sense that it had become overblown or too well known or too hyped. I think the Annapolis scene has an evolving character and a growing thing that Maryland, that is kind of atypical for Maryland. It's like that's what we do, and we get something new, we put our flag, just like you said. This is our new music. This is what we're going to be now. And then if it sticks, it can stick. And PRS showed that, hey, I can come up with something that is my own. Yeah, and Logan's saying he feels that way when he hits Annapolis. You get there and it's like, oh, we're in Annapolis. Did you bring the Grey Poupon?
Right.
I'm going to get a hot dog, and I need the Grey Poupon. But it has that, and that's what PRS kind of managed to bring. They brought that sense of higher class to this guitar world and elevate it. And then they've made it accessible with the SE line and the S2 line, which to me are fantastic guitars. My first SE, I still have. My girlfriend got me an SE, the Semi Hollow 2015. I just love it. I mean, it's just so unique, and that's kind of been one of the ones that I tinker. I have a humbucker sized P90 in the neck, and I love the P90 sound. And you guys have kind of done the P90 thing in a couple of guitars, like the SE1 had the P90.
Yeah, the single P90. Yep.
And you have done like triple P90 guitars. Was that a thing for a little bit, or have I just seen that as like one-off special?
No, that's been a thing twice.
Okay.
We did. They were just the soap bar, the custom 22 soap bars.
Bars, right.
And they had those were one of the first ones with like the set maple neck.
Okay.
And they were cool.
Yeah, they're
switching
really
system,
cool.
which had a weird switching system, which ended up coming into the special, where it's bridge pickup, bridge and middle, then outside, then neck and middle, and then neck.
So kind of the best of the Super Strat mod.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
See, he's not afraid to take something that's like, this is the way it should be, and try it, and then evolve it. So that system went to which guitar then?
Well, that's what we use in the special now.
Okay. So
but
Anthony's saying the SEs are no joke, and he has the Mahoney. Yep, I had a Mahoney for a while, and I've had one. Oh man, I mean that thing is a killer guitar. You can hit every single fret on that thing, and I mean that was an inspiring guitar. I do regret kind of moving on with that one, but that was one of those ones that I got. I found it, I fixed it up, and I put all this stuff, and then it was like I think I ended up swapping, trading a bunch of guitars for my PRS with the Floyd, and then it's funny how the Floyd is like kind of like divisive, and I credit Paul for making that a divisive feature on a Paul Reed Smith, because he designed a perfect bridge and he designed a perfect tuning system and then evolved it. And you don't need a Floyd on, and that's the argument. And I get it. I like a Floyd, so I have a Floyd, Paul, but I also have my one, and I mean that speaks about Paul and his drive in this world, like there's just something special about him saying this is the way it should be. Oh, what do you go? Oh, you got a Torero?
Yeah, this was my number one for a long time. I mean, it's a great flat top 25.5-inch scale Floyd. There's something about Floyd that
It's something special. It is. If
Yeah.
you like it, if it's a thing for you, then it's so cool that that he throws it out there. Oh, so I just took Anthony's comment down. He said, yeah, he's about to do a big list of USA mods to his Mahoney.
Mahoney. Yeah.
That's the great that the SEs are that mod platform, because you can take this already great guitar and really tune it and hone it. And I see people saying, like, I don't understand why people mod up an SE. It's like, well, because I got to the point with my core that I was like, I love it. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to tinker with it, but I'd love to have another PRS to kind of mess around with. I want to see what this sounds like, see what that sounds like,
I mean, the core comes out to such a great sounding guitar that you exactly like you said. This one sounds perfect. This is amazing. But sometimes you want something a little weird or a little different, and the SE makes a great platform for that. I'm going to grab my first one real quick.
Yeah, of course. Let's see if I go and do this for a second. I got at least a couple of mine. Yeah, I got a couple of mine behind me. That is my my EG, the Seafoam, and then I got the Black Floyd, and then the Custom 22. What on the subject of SEs? What are the best tuners to swap in? Yeah, I mean, isn't that like one of them? That and what pickups did you put in your SE? Those are the two. But that's granted. That's what we're here doing. We're modding. We're changing things, and that's why they're that great platform for that kind of stuff. Now, oh yeah, there you go. That's is that a Benji?
Billy Martin, yeah.
I mean, a Billy Martin, yeah. Okay, so that's a good Charlotte guitar.
Yep.
So was that your first?
This was when I started PRS. This was the first.
Thanks, Logan. Love my EG. Yep. Okay, so
the first one I bought after I started there.
Okay.
And I literally bought this. I think it was like a Thursday or Friday.
You can show the guitar now, and we can see it in its full glory. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be satin black. It's fallen a couple of times. I played it so much I wore through the black paint back in the day. But this one here I literally bought on like a Thursday or Friday, and left from the factory to drive over to Rabbit Hill Music in Easton and play a show that night with it.
They are. You buy them and you take them right to a show.
Yeah, like literally just rolled right out to a show with it. And it did its thing. It did its thing. It's done its thing for 15, 16 years now.
I was going to say that's one of the first SE models to have come out. There was, what was it? The Santana was that the first, or was it the Custom 22 SE? I can't remember. Maybe they were right around the same time.
The Santana, the original Santana SE was the first.
Okay.
But it looked like a custom. It was the PRS shape, not the Santana shape.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I remember those ads specifically, and I remember when the SEs started coming out and being like, oh boy, like here it goes, and I just the whole concept was like, this is great. This is going to just change so much when it comes to getting good value. He really then he came around and set that bar for the value point, because he had already set the quality point. And then you're looking here, you are holding, one of the early SEs. This is before they really kind of were having a roll with the variety that they have now. But yeah,
this is
nails it right out.
Mahogany, flat top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's basically one of those early Santanas with different fret markers.
Yep. So that was his kind of way of saying, well, we can give people, maybe make certain names accessible, and their guitar let's give them a guitar that they would like to play on stage. And I remember thinking, that is just so cool that the guys from Good Charlotte are getting these guitars. And I can't remember, there was a couple of other smaller bands at the beginning of the SE line that had those, and then so what'd you do here? So you painted it. Is that fluorescent?
It's glow in the dark, actually.
It's glow in the dark paint job. Okay.
It's neon green glow in the dark paint. I did go locking tuners on it. PRS nut, and then Dragon 1,
Nice.
and just a Duncan design. But the Duncan design is just, this is a kill switch or a live switch. The neck pickup's dead and it turns on when I push that.
Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha. Oh, whoa, that's cool. So you got
my brain can't work, push this and let go of this, so I push everything at once.
Check you out. That's awesome. See, that's what I mean. Like that's the whole the stepping it and making it work for you.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Like if you got the tools, you may as well figure out what works. It doesn't work to do it the Buckethead way, but I can do it this way.
I can do it this way.
Yeah, that's really cool. The kill switch thing is great. I love a kill switch.
And that's the joy of like going and finding that beater guitar and just having at it. Is like, that's why I came up with this. I was like, oh, what if I do this? I wasn't doing it to my main guitar at that point. I was doing it to the beater I had hanging out.
Yep.
Then once it worked, I was like, okay, you test out a little more, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, that's good. I need this in my main.
Yep, this is now this has become what it is, and then you're bonded to it a little bit more. It's got that feeling, and when you want that vibe or that sound, you got an excuse to go ahead and grab that guitar.
Exactly.
That's really cool. So, how many? I got to ask, how many PRSs do you have, or have you just pretty much lost count at this point? Or
PRSs itself. 1 second. I've got like all my. This one, not mine.
Okay, so not count. And we have another question from Anthony.
Yes.
We'll get to that if you think you have a close estimate of, because you get as an employee, you can make a guitar every
5-ish years.
5-ish years. Okay, that's what I thought. Yep. Okay.
So that 594 is my latest one. This Archtop's my first one.
Hold on, I'm gonna solo your layout. There we go.
Archtop's my first one.
Anthony, I'm gonna post your question back up in a second, Anthony, after he shows a couple of these off here.
This is my second one.
I love that.
Custom 22 rosewood neck.
Oh.
You got the name on it. This one here's got dings and dents all over it.
And the rosewood neck, no, there's no gloss on that, right? That looks satin.
Yeah, it's bare rosewood. It's the only gloss is there from just finger oils.
Yeah, I love that on a neck.
Yeah, it feels so good.
That's joyous.
And that's all of them. That's 2.
So you got the Torero, you got the
Torero and the Billy Martin. And then I've got
Stacy's, and then your 2 other employee ones.
I've got one weird one, which is this Moose Shock with the Floyd.
Oh, whoa! Hold on a second. So that's a Barry. That's a baritone.
Yep. So it is the plate style hardtail baritone. See if this is in tune. It's been. Well, yeah, it's close.
I mean, like the PRS is. I've grabbed one after not playing it for months, and it's like, I can't believe this is in tune. Even like after a show, pop it into the case, and then you don't use it on the next few shows for a little while, and it sits for a couple months, and you grab it, and it's just like, I can't believe this thing is still in tune. That is when there's something really, really cool about it. And I find that to be the case with the SEs, with the S2s, and with my course. I'm going to bring that volume down just a little while you tune up. But that's definitely one of the highlights and one of the carryovers from all of the lines, I feel, is the quality of the materials that go into that. You can find a Squire from time to time that might do that, but all of my SEs that I've owned and EG all the time, grab them, and unless I've gone through crazy climate shifts here, or and the wood is whatnot, but keeping it in a climate controlled house, that and they stay in tune that well. It's amazing. So I'm going to bring that thing.
They really do. This was like a can it be done type of thing,
Right.
and
Let me see
figure it could be done.
let me see the bridge routing there. I didn't quite get a good look at it. It's all full on recessed there. Yeah, okay, that's what I
Oh
thought.
yeah, it's full on recessed.
Yeah,
Had to put the whole cavity in the back, all that.
really cool looking.
Build nutshells.
That's a
Kind of,
nice unique one. That's something you don't see every day for sure. Okay, Anthony wants to know about some of the wood library versus the private stock process. And I think this is pretty fascinating. The private stock stuff is just so exquisite. So can you speak on that for a little bit?
a little bit. I'm not that involved in that part of it. I know that there's a lot less rules in private stock.
There's less rules in private stock. Okay.
Yeah, wood library is it's I think it's really dealer dependent. I don't deal with those like those sales type of things and all that much. I actually tell people, people, I'm sure you've seen people like how much something costs. I'm like, I'm not sure. I
Right.
make sure I keep my hands dirty.
Right.
I like working on things other than paperwork.
Right.
Um, so that's really it's not really dealer specific. I know like wood libraries have to have a certain like you have to order a certain number for them, and private stocks are really one offs.
Okay. Okay. I definitely, that's not something I realized. So, so like Chicago Music Exchange or Sweetwater or somebody like that, if they wanted a certain exclusive run of this type of guitar, this top, this color combination, that would be Wood
Yep.
Library.
Yeah, a lot of times, like I know we had there was one dealer a couple of years back who did a really cool run of standards, just all mahogany.
Ooh,
Um,
yeah.
which wasn't available at that point, but he wanted to run them, so you can do that through that type of thing.
Okay.
And there's some really really cool wood library stuff that comes through. The
Yeah.
dealers make some really cool combinations. Um,
You got to think that the dealers are going to think to themselves, we've had X number of people ask us about this. Why not do that? And so that versus private stock, where you're just like, you're a person calling up PRS, you're calling up and saying, I want this, I want this, and I want this, and I
yeah,
want something I've never seen before, and I really don't even care how it sounds. And here's the cash. So that's what the private stock kind of is like you're going to make
private,
an investment into yourself almost, right?
yeah, private stock still we like because I do assemble quite a few private stocks. I assemble a lot of the weird stuff, the fan fret stuff,
Mm.
the fan fret stuff, the 7 strings, 8 strings. I I do some of that stuff, but at the end of the day, those things still have to sound amazing. So like,
Oh yeah.
I don't think you're going to roll in there and be like, I want one made out of balsa wood and rubber cement, and everyone's going to say yes.
Yeah,
They're still like great guitars. They're incredible guitars. It's definitely those guys still approach it from the art of guitar making versus the art of this is going to look pretty on a wall.
right.
You know, Paul, the guy who's in charge of private stock, is also my boss, Miles. And he's an intense guitar builder. Like he's an artist, but he's also an intense guitar builder.
He's building with a purpose, and he's building
Yes, he's building with a purpose
for the customer, but with somebody else's name on it that has a standard.
Yes, and he's got his standards are incredibly high, and
Yeah.
he wants it
Be in that
to
position.
sound. He wants it to sound incredible and look incredible, and he's got the team he's put together. They're doing one-offs that are just outstanding.
Yeah, I bet.
there's been many a time where I've assembled them and I'm just like, yep, this is one of the best ones I've ever heard.
Yeah. I
Someone,
know.
someone better be playing this.
I know. Looking through the forums, through the PRS owners group, the official Facebook page,
Yep.
some of the guitars I see are just so extraordinary, and I think to myself, God, I don't know if I would be able to bring myself to play it. If I nicked it, if I made that piece of art, have a scar, I would feel bad. But at the same time, my journey has been to bruise them all. Like I'm a
Right.
klutz. So I think that is inherent for me, so I have mad respect for anybody. Hey, Anthony, thanks for the sub. I just got a notice here. Thanks for subscribing, Anthony.
Nice.
That whole concept of paying such an exorbitant amount of money, not an exorbitant amount of money, a relatively, for what you're getting, a good amount of money. It's not out of the league of something unreasonable, because when you're looking at the quality, and like he's saying, the wood library choices, the menu choices that you get there, it's like the difference between, you're stepping up from a core into that area where you can say, okay, well, I'm at the best steakhouse in the world. I want the best side items. I want the best butter you guys have. Do you have any of that kosher salt that was ground by that's where you're getting to, and so that's what you come to expect, man. So yeah, and if you have any problems, just send it back to the PTC and they'll fix it back up. But when for me, that would be such a value that it would almost hurt my heart if I nicked
Yeah.
a beautiful piece of art like that, because I do see them as artwork, and I try not to buy a guitar just for that level. But I do see even the Paul Reed Smiths that I have that I think are just gorgeous. I fear doing something to them, just because even my SE, I would hate for something to happen to it, because I just love them so much, and that's what we get with this passion. It becomes addictive. It's like video game for me.
Yes.
The thing, it's like once you dive in, and it's like you were saying, it becomes an addictive thing when you're the teching and the modding and the making, the tweaking, and
Yeah.
finding the voice of that guitar. That
Yeah. There's a lot of and that's it is really addictive. I've been like lately. I've been digging into microphones a lot. I mean, I just got getting ready to build a U47 copy.
nice. Okay, so you're not even just the types of mics, but you're making a kit up.
Yeah, I'm making them.
Heck yeah, right on.
But those things, like a microphone, is. I look at a really good microphone like a really good guitar. There's not a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a lot of. I can a really good mic is 15, 20 components.
Yeah.
But you just have to make sure they're the best components.
Best it can be, right? Oh.
And it's a lot of stuff with the PRS stuff. You gotta, almost everything on there is proprietary, because that's what we found is the best.
Yep.
Is we like this, we like this, we like this. Let's make something that's ours. And it's not a lot of components, but if all the components are really high quality, you get really high quality something out the other end. It's greater than the sum of its parts, but if the sum of its parts is really damn good, it's going to be even better out the other side.
Right. Exactly.
And microphones are the same thing. There's a tube, there's a transformer, there's a capsule, and a handful of capacitors and resistors. That's it. It's not much.
And in the fine tuning of the caps to the transducer, and the choices that the person that designed that make, that all of those choices that went into that, that's what becomes inherent, to the character of it. And that's why the Paul Smiths have their sound. And even within the variety of them, there's still a sheen. The single coils still have just something else special to them.
Right.
The neurofields have that whoa, yeah, there's, oh, baby, and that's that whole thing that the finding the right parts for the recipe, the right salt for this and that. You don't need a lot in the recipe for your soup then. You just make the soup the best you possibly can. And
Yeah.
now you're working your way around. You're adding more tools to the microphone thing is addictive. Like
Yes.
the build if you're that far into building and stuff like that, yeah, building microphones. Oh, buddy, have fun there.
I'm not skinning capsules or anything like that. That is not here yet. I'm going to say yet because I'm sure before too long I'll fall into that hole too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's exactly it's the right piece here and there, and then my dad went to a sushi restaurant one time where my dad loves soy sauce wasabi, and he asked for it, and the chef's like, "You can just leave. I made this right.
Right.
What needs to be here is here."
Yep.
And that's like, and there's part of that too. Like, you're not going to add a random second tube, right? Like second gain stage. This is what needs to be here.
Right.
Guitars a lot of the same way. Like I used to have a love affair with the old BC Riches with 87 switches and 32 knobs. And I still do to a point.
Right.
Not gonna lie, I've got some pretty weird, complex wiring sitting around here. But there's just something, just the right pickup with the right pots.
Yep.
To the right amp is it's magic.
Yep.
I'm sure you've plugged that right guitar into that Soldano, and it's just like that's.
Oh yeah.
Look at Jimmy. He plugs that one guitar into that Soldano, and that's.
Yep. He's been using that. Oh gosh, he's had it on a Decatone. That particular Decatone, I think 20 some years. I think he has two of them, and it's it's either the PRS or an AGS neck only. Doesn't even bother with the bridge. Those things are yanked out of there, and that's what makes that the uniqueness of it. You find I just need salt, pepper. That's all I got.
That's it.
I got the pepper in the amp and the salt here, and let's just go from there. And there is definitely something to be said for all. I like my guitars that have a couple of those options. Like I have found that, like if I have a guitar with every option, forget it. I'm not playing the guitar anymore. I'm playing the options.
Yep.
I think that's where Paul found kind of that sweet spot with certain guitars. They come to expect like let's throw all of it in there, but then there's other guitars where it's like with the Fiore with Mark's guitar that clearly has some very specific things going on, that it's like, okay, this is there for a reason. And then you go, you give me a bridge pickup only CU 24 Hearts. That would be really, really something. I mean, and then you get down to that point where the single pickup guitar too, like I love my multis. I love my EG that has like 11 different setups in it. I love just a two humbucker guitar. But I've got a couple guitars that it's just pickup volume knob. And you guys don't really have that other than you had the SE1 like we were talking about earlier, but that's not a model that you guys have, do you? You don't have a single pickup guitar in production.
Not currently. There's single pickups are tough with the way that the PRSs are constructed with a neck. The neck is actually this long, so you'd have to cover it somehow. It's just kind of not the greatest, and it's not
right.
It doesn't come out right.
The pocket, the neck pocket, and everything there is open for the.
Still basically have to route the neck pickup and then fill it in.
Right, gotcha. So it's the point of it is just not there. So, and that's why I guess Anthony is saying, why don't you try that one time? I bet it would be amazing, and so I guess that's why it wasn't so hard for Jimmy to just go ahead and say, I don't need the bridge pickup. Oh yeah, well that's no problem. Here we can make
that's
there you go. That's a little less routing, no problem. But that already you would need a plug. Yep, Anthony's saying go ahead and plug that bad boy up. but then that goes against the beautiful top, the
Yeah.
the whole concept of the beautiful top, the quilt or the flame that you guys have, or even the sparkle tops. To me, I love the sparkle top and all of the sparkle tops. I mean, gosh, who has this silver? What was the silver sparkle model? Was it
The Zach Myers.
which one?
Zach Myers had a silver sparkle
Okay,
single cut.
yeah, that is killer looking. Ooh, glad you brought him up because that new SE he has the headstock on that. You guys wandered into that match territory there. Can you speak on that at all?
I actually have only played one of those guitars so far.
Yeah,
It's really pretty.
that new one is really pretty. Yeah, it's really
pretty. And it's a great color.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
They nailed
yeah,
it with the green, and so to then make the next color like that even as
yeah,
vibrant. Yeah, they did. They got it.
yeah. They nailed it on that one. And those guitars have always been just cool. The semi hollow single cut thing. It's just a fun guitar.
Great guitar. Great idea. And I think I think that model speaks to people that aren't Shine. You could buy that model and not know who Shinedown is. You could have no idea anything about Zach and be like, "Whoa, this is one of the coolest guitars." Well, I have managed to play a couple of them, and I that's one that I still am wanting, and so I'm so cool. I'm so glad you guys have released that model with the new color and everything because it's reinvigorated my interest in that.
Nice.
But then I'm torn because I've always been okay, so Jack Butler, Steve Vai, Crossroads, that Jackson or the Charvel. I think he was playing a Charvel, whatever he was playing in that color, that red, and then the pickup configuration is the Fiore is like an evolution. Like when I saw that, I was like, this is like the modernization of the Jack Butler. Oh my gosh, now what do I do? Because I would love to add the Zach Myers model, but I'm just enamored by that Fiore. And I guess if I can get on to, since we're talking about the models, is that
Mhm.
that's a bolt-on, the Fiore?
The Fiore? Yeah.
That is the bolt-on. And so that's not something you guys like. My the EG was a bolt-on thing, the CE24.
Yep.
I think you guys shocked people with that. They didn't expect the bolt-ons to kind of take the way they did, and then you reintroduced them, and they have their own kind of unique voice and their own unique following.
That really goes to one of the things that that you and I had talked about before, where everything you do to a guitar gives it a certain sound.
Yeah.
And that bolt-on neck definitely gives it a sound to its own.
Mhm.
And it's a good sound. It's a classic. You think back, we all came up listening to a whole lot of guitars with bolt-on necks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a sound that your ear would reject, and so the blending, how he managed to get the PRS sound into that and still add a new layer to it, a new price point. This was like a way of being a price point specific kind of a thing, but then also still having a very high quality to it. And I think that's his goal, and that's
Yeah.
I think also speaks to kind of your whole goal in your career here is kind of saying I like what I like. And if it's gonna have to be this or that does it, then that's what I'm gonna do. And then this guitar is that, or this is that now. And I've now, yeah, I can move on to the next thing. And if it's Tekken for Paul, and then moving on to
Yep. You there?
creating a guitar line and saying I really like that. And now I'm going to go work locally for like one of the biggest manufacturers of guitar products ever. And it's a full circle.
That's really kind of been what I've done since the beginning. It's just like I like guitars. I like them. I like playing them. I like messing with them. I like building them. It's kind of been a pretty solid path I've been on since the beginning.
That's very cool. That's just awesome for you.
And
And
it's been really nice to build a life around
yeah.
that whole thing, and kind of build a life around it and have it be what I do. And honestly, you know how you always say, you know, don't make your hobby your job.
Uh-huh.
I don't really agree with that because it's still like it's fun. It's fun, but at the same time, it's driven me down these other roads. You know, I
Right.
do a lot of vintage gear repair now. I do a lot of electronic stuff. The microphone thing, the teching thing.
So we can define our own hobby. You know, we can say, hey,
Yeah,
this isn't really a hobby anything anymore for me. This has become a life, and now maybe I need another hobby, and I can move on from there and help evolve that. But that's definitely the story for people. I think that's what I'm trying to get through with this. That's talking to guys like you that I know that have been able to say, I love music so much to the
yep,
point that when it came to me saying, just like myself, like I can't rely on the song anymore. I can't rely on the music, but
yeah,
I can make music my life in some way. You've made it to work for yourself in this way.
yeah. And you also have to like we said in the beginning, you have to remember there's so many layers outside to music, to recorded music, to live music, to anything outside of those 4 to 6 guys on stage.
Yeah.
Um, Everything from the engineers who design guitars, mics, drum kits, lighting rigs. The first dude who flew a crazy huge set of monitors, it was like, no, we can stand under that. I'd be like,
Yeah. That's like
no, I'm good.
3,000 pounds of truss and then 10,000 pounds of speakers, and we're going to stand under that. I don't know about that. No, get the whole crowd under it. Get everybody there. We got this. There's layers. Yeah, the engineering that goes into it, and that exactly the backbone. If it weren't, and the evolution of it all, and people taking the steps, the backbone of somebody like Leo Fender, or Les Paul, and the evolution of that, and then the Beatles, and then having these amplifiers that um, because the crowds are so loud and everything is so loud, you're just doing anything you can to be heard.
Yeah,
The constant riding, the multi-tracking of the 70s, and then the overuse of it all in the 80s. And then
right.
the stepping back too, just like we're saying, that having a guitar that has a little and then having a guitar that has a lot. Sometimes you love that little, sometimes you love that lot, and
Yeah,
they're all the tools to make the career path, just like you're doing. That's, I think, an essential thing for everybody to kind of be open to when they first start playing guitar or music
yeah,
in general, to be able to say, it can only be this. Whether it's I'm only going to be a musician, or I only can wire something like this, or I'm only ever going to let somebody else touch my truss rod. There
yeah,
has to be a point where you say, okay, what am I going to do?
yeah. And there's a lot of secondary skills that you can learn going through this industry. Um, like I am by no means an engineer. I can do some math. It's one of those things where I wasn't real big on math when I was in school, but I use it all the time now. To the point where sometimes I'll sit back like, well, I wish I had studied that harder when I was in school.
Right.
Um, Same with there's so many like little skills like that are important to know, and I wish I, like I said, I wish I had done more of that when I was in school versus just hanging out playing guitar. But those all come together.
Right.
And the biggest part is, if you want to start teching for a band, if you want to start getting into that world, once live music and all that starts moving again, is just show up and be there and pay attention. Yep. Not even necessarily to the band, but pay attention to all those people on the sides of the stage. You want to see the most organized yet chaotic group of people, is watch those dudes at the beginning or end of the night. Or especially you got a big band, I went and saw, I think it was like Alice Cooper and Iron Maiden. Or, Manson and Zombie. You want to see a crazy, crazy just mess of people that know exactly what they're doing. Watch those guys at set changeover. You want to tear down Alice Cooper and set up Iron Maiden? Dude, it's incredible to watch.
And then you got Bruce Dickinson, already a master of his craft, who's going to just go ahead and say, "Hey guys, I'm going to fly us to the next gig. I went ahead and got my pilot's license." So, I mean, like, okay, there you go. There, let's go, Bruce. Sure, we're going to get on the with Bruce. Thank God he doesn't drink, man. You never know. Like, I have such respect for Iron Maiden. I think they're just great. Yeah. I mean, like, they scared me as a kid, and as I got older, the stories of them, and then also the story within all the stories within their songs are just great. I mean, they're just so many bands wanted to be them, and you heard that evolution over the years, and then they would come back around as a popular sound. Anything that's good comes back around again, and that's the Fender thing, the Gibson thing, and what PRS, what Paul did. I think it is always he has his own circles too, and he has a way of not ever, so far as I'm concerned, he's never hit that had to worry about that low stride. Like Fender hit a low point, Gibson hit these low points, and he has maintained a solid level. And I mean, maybe you as an insider might see times or periods where you might feel, I would love to have seen this and this didn't happen or that didn't happen. From a buyer's perspective and from a guitarist's perspective, I think there's a layer of quality that speaks to what he's always tried to do. And it goes to like what you're saying, put in the best materials, do what's right for the voice of the guitar, for what it is you're going for, whatever the recipe is,
No, that's legit. A lot of that is just, you see those low periods when companies stop pushing. Like, cool, well that worked. Let's just do it again in a different color.
Yep.
I don't think that's a thing that Paul can do.
Yeah. Exactly.
But
not going to let it happen.
Yeah, there really hasn't been a low point. Like, you take the early guitars and you take the current ones and just like close your eyes and play. Forget, price points, all that. Just close, and I'll take the current one every time. It's just you can tell that there's been 20 years of
evolution.
Push. Yeah, of evolution.
Yep.
Yeah. And like I said, I've been there for 18 of that now.
That's awesome. I was gonna ask here at the end just to kind of close us out, which I'm going to do. We're at almost an hour 45 in. So first, thank you, Skitchy. Thank you so much for being here. This has been a really fun one for me.
It's been my pleasure, man.
18 years for PRS. So that's a lot of not just tool time, but just the life lesson time too. You've probably seen and heard things spoken about that within that staff that doesn't get talked about a whole lot, because there's the stories behind the small family kind of a thing, like you're saying. It's a small family and you hear it,
I mean, that, like, I was 20 when I started there.
Yeah.
almost 39 right now. It's
So like almost half your life.
yeah. It will be not this coming year, but the next year.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll catch up. You'll catch up. You'll hit the halfway point, and then you'll pass it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. That's gotta. I'm very happy for you on that level. That on as somebody that found guitar and then found the different layers of it. I'm happy you could find somebody that saw in you what you were trying to explore and show, and saw the value within you to say, "Hey, I'm I'm right there. Let's try it." And you went, "Oh, you, Paul? Okay, cool. I'm all for it." So I'm really happy that you got to the point where you could find somebody that could bring you along for the journey and keep it going, because that's hard to do in this business, especially these days.
Yeah,
The last year you guys hit a point where you had to shut down for a little bit.
we did.
You had to close down.
And PRS was amazing through that whole thing. Um, no one got laid off, no one got furloughed.
Right.
Kept us on so everyone had health insurance. There's families. There's a ton of families there. There's a lot of.
Yeah.
There's quite a few families where both parents are there.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were amazing through all that. It's been everyone came back from that just raring to go.
I bet. Yeah. I mean,
it's been
your movie, the lineup shows that you guys put in the work. Like that last year. This your lineup blew everything out of the water from what I saw from the online NAM footage. Everything I've seen, your experience, stuff, whatever the official videos. I can't remember what the title.
I forget what the actual. I think it was just the 2021 release video or something.
The release video had it was like, oh, okay, great, and that it was. Like I was saying, there's just the steady wave is just an amazing output. It's got to be a great ride for you. And I wish another 20 for you and another 20 beyond that. I hope that you can keep on doing this with Paul, and that you get to keep on doing all the fun stuff on the side too. The gigs with him. I really hope things open back up really soon.
Me too.
Yeah, so that you guys can get out there and you can keep on adding that part to your belt, because that really is a fun little world to get into.
Oh, absolutely. The live music thing is such a neat thing to be a part of. And like I said, it's bands are always looking for someone who's present to kind of help out. Even if you just even if you're not getting paid at first. I didn't get paid at first for any of those. I was there. I was like, well, what needs to be done? The experiences. I was like, I volunteered for those. I was like, what needs to be done? And that just being there and being present is huge.
Yeah.
It's huge in making an opening for yourself in this industry and being inquisitive. That's what there is. It's kind of what this industry's built on.
Yeah, no, it is. That's it. That's the whole evolutionary process. You have to ask. You can't be heard if you're quiet. You know?
And make sure you're asking, not just asking, but think about what you're asking. Ask the right questions. You've played out. How many times? What's that pedal versus why that pedal? Those are two very different questions.
Yep. And is that the best? That's something that I think we need to escape as in this world. What's the best for this? What's the best for me? Well, you don't know what's the best for you until you try it. You could ask, what's the best for you? What's your favorite of this? But, we do need to get away from that mentality as guitarists and as tinkerers of somebody's going to tell me exactly what to do, and go to the point where you were saying, I need to learn how to solder. I need to know what it's like when I turn the truss rod. I need to know how this pickup sounds differently than that pickup in this position and in that position. You
Yep.
could read about it a million times. You could have 100 people on the internet lecture you about doing it, but until you actually just do it, you
Yep.
haven't done it. And once you can start doing that, and then you can back up, like you're saying, you can back up the words that you're trying to put out there for yourself, and so that when you are saying, "Hey," to the right person, "Hey, I can do this," and they're wondering, "I wonder if this guy can do it," you can say, "Yeah, I've done this and this and this," and then
Yep.
the next thing you know, you're working for Paul Reed Smith. So
Right.
that's how quickly it happens, right?
Exactly.
So that's your story in a nutshell, and
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm really happy to have had you on the show, Skitchy. That was a lot of fun. I admire all of the staff down there. I always have. I love getting down there when I can. I've only been to the new factory a couple of times. It's just an amazing place.
It's so cool.
Everybody, thank you all for hanging out tonight. Thank you, Skitchy, for being here. Thanks to Paul for letting you out for the night.
Right.
And letting us talk about how much we love his product. And everybody that's been hanging out here, make sure you hit a thumbs up on the way out the door. Check out the PRS channel. There's Skitchy's on there, and he's got all sorts
Yep.
of great tips. So if you're
There's a
looking
whole,
for those kind of tips, yeah, there's
there's a whole
list.
if you go to the channel, there's a whole bunch of like product stuff, and then down towards the bottom there's an education section, which is a lot of the tech tips and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you check it out. I've got a couple more we're filming.
Cool.
And it's short, bite-sized pieces of like there's one on truss rods. So if you want to learn more about it, check that out.
Great.
That kind of thing.
Logan, thank you guys all for the chat.
Thank you.
Hanging out. Skitchy, I'll talk to you. I'll see you on the internet, bro.
Yes, for sure, man.
All right. Thanks, guys. All right. Y'all take care. Double D Guitar out.
Peace, peace.